Well, here we are again, finally seeing the conclusion to John M. Chu's Wicked film adaptation. I want to start by saying Wicked for Good was amazing. Yes, I'm one of those people who pay to cry at movie theatres. And also, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet, because we're gonna be going in depth. So there were 2 new songs, No Place Like Home and The Girl in the Bubble, which were wonderful. They added more to the characters' stories, such as Alphaba's motivation to help animal injustice, or Glinda's turn from false good to true good. So in the original musical, the song Wonderful is only sung by the wizard, but in this film, Glinda is added to this performance. This turns the song from deceptive to manipulative and chilling, showing us Glinda is so deep in her need to please that she's willing to convince her best friend to turn against everything that matters in Oz. Despite the fact Glinda watched as the wizard turned all of Oz against Elphaba, she's still trapped in this belief that there's something good here, that the wizard would make things better. The entire vibe of the song changes to make the discovery of the caged animals more of a betrayal because Elphaba agreed under a false belief that Glinda was someone to trust. One of many, many heartbreaking scenes in this film is the scene where we see Boq turning into the Tin Man. Misunderstood betrayal making Nessa misread the grimoire to take his heart away. In an effort to save Boq, Elphaba turned him into a man made of tin, resulting in Nessa hating her and Boq blaming her for destroying him. There was a different arrangement to As Long As You're Mine, different from the musical, something slower, more romantic. It starts slow, then it starts to meld into the arrangement I'm familiar with, and seeing Elphaba happy like that made me so happy. Preceding that, Fiero's "Let the green girl go" line was something I remember the musical nerds were wishing for before the film's release. The moment I heard it, I cheered silently to myself because in stating that, Fiero specifies whose side he's on. Let the green girl go, don't release the blonde one because I will kill her if you do. The first time that I watched the trailer, tears sprang to my eyes the moment I heard the starting line of For Good. So you can bet I sobbed when I got to see the full song. If nobody else in the cinema cried, they have no heart, like the Tin Man. Even with the slight amusement of knowing that Dorothy was crying just a few feet away in a different room, there's something so heartbreaking about watching these 2 women go from enemies to friends and back again. They both know that things have escalated too far for them to change it in any way, yet they still believe they're made for something better than how the story dictates. And oh my goodness, the editing making us watch through Glinda's eyes as the silhouette of Dorothy tosses a bucket of water at the shadow of Elphaba and killing her. Only looking through the gap in the door, Glinda's only conclusions are that she sent the stranger to see the wizard, then this stranger was sent to kill Glinda's best friend in a castle only Elphaba knows belonged to Fiero, and there's nothing Glinda could do to change it. I was stuck in this feeling of helplessness, watching this beloved scene from Wizard of Oz play out from a different perspective with all this new knowledge about the supposed Wicked Witch of the West, choking on my own tears as I watched Glinda pressing a hand over her mouth to stay quiet like her best friend had told her to. It was so painful. I mentioned this in the review of part 1 last year, I'll link it up here. But the micro-expressions that Ariana can portray add to the emotions that give Glinda that much more depth. For example, when Elphaba tells her to look at me, and there's this smile as Glinda sees her best friend, this woman who changed her, then Elphaba specifies not with your eyes, with theirs, and Glinda's face just crumples as the weight of the world's hatred falls on her shoulders, seeing this evil witch who would betray all of Oz to fuel her own plans. And there's no way that Glinda can fix that without being hated herself. And it hurts. Having seen a bootleg of the musical, I know about the trapdoor and Elphaba's not dead thing in the end, watching as Fiero returns to the castle, knocks on the floor before opening the door to reveal Elphaba standing there believing she was stuck forever, only to then recognize Fiero and learn he isn't dead, but that his spell saved him in a different way. Instead of returning to the Emerald City and meeting the hatred waiting for them, in order to keep the ruse and make Glinda a hero, they go through the passage and beyond Oz, choosing to wander the plains beyond in search of justice and equality. It's like, let them be together, finally happy, without fear of bias to harm them. Giving Glinda a better ending, confronting the wizard as being Elphaba's father, sending him out of Oz, locking up Madame Marable, and welcoming the animals back into Oz to be equal once more, we got to watch her go from this privileged only child who got everything she wanted to a true heroine who shirked her privilege to change Oz into the world Elphaba fought so hard for. So in conclusion, I think taking the time to break the musical into 2 films worked to merge the theatre production and information from the book that was omitted. I think this is one of the better film adaptations of a beloved musical compared to other such versions, looking at you, Les Mis 2012. Someday I will sit down and watch both Wicked and Wicked for Good back to back so I can experience the tragedy to its full extent. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it. It's amazing. The actors did great work and I adore it. I will give you this warning that if you watch the musical and then you go and read the book, they are very different. The musical, I will say, is very, very loosely based on the book. In that the musical is kind of advertised as being good for kids, but the book is not. If that makes any sense. Sorry, I thought I saw Estelle in the background. Yeah, so that's basically my review of Wicked for Good. I had a lot of thoughts, and the best way that I could get them all out was to write them down on my phone, and then last night, I think it was, I sat down and tried to put it into a script so that I could not be sitting and umming and ahhing my way through the video, and yet I do that anyway. I think the movie was great. I know there are a few die-hard musical fans who may not like this adaptation, specifically the adaptation of Act 2 of the stage musical. A lot of people I've seen are upset about the transition from I'm Not That Girl reprise into As Long As You're Mine. I feel like that transition works really well on stage. In film, it doesn't quite work as nicely. I think the way that was handled in the film is better, personally, with us watching as Glinda's life falls apart around her and her view of this amazing everything is how she wants it kind of crumbles, and then we transition into Elphaba and Fiero walking into Elphaba's lair, and then we start to see As Long As Your Mind come in. Personally, I feel like that works. I understand how some die-hard musical fans wouldn't. There are some people who may also dislike the Let the Green Girl Go line. They might find it cringy, but some die-hard musical fans really liked that line because it shows just whose side Fiero's on. The prosthetics for Fiero's scarecrow costume could be better, but they're not as bad as the costume on the stage. When I first saw the costume when he was on stage, I was inclined to remember Dick Van Dyke's puppet character in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang with like the heavy face makeup, and it just makes me laugh. It takes away all the seriousness. So this new look, I think, works better. I liked being able to see more of the animals side and see kind of some of Glinda's backstory. I think that was really good. Yeah. So I know it might divide people. I understand that. If you have arguments to help, please leave them in the comments. I would be happy to read them and discuss them with you. Until then, I can hear Estelle at the gate, and I should really check what's going on. Yeah, thanks for watching. Go watch Wicked for Good if you haven't already. If you haven't, I don't know why you watched this review. And I will see you next week. Bye.